So growing up, I had a fear of the devil, and many of you probably did too. But my fear was derived from my culture, my family, and our New World Catholicism that included things like matachina dancers, which were an idea brought over from Spain with the Moors, where they would dress up with masks and dance around, and penitente sex, not sex, but sects. That's for you, Anna. And these were secret groups of men who would do things like flagellation, not flatulation. And also a devotion to the Virgen de Guadalupe, which, is this idolatry that we get from the combination of the Native Americans and the Spanish. And so that was the culture that I grew up in. And I remember as a child, my first memory of the devil was actually thanks to my grandfather. And my grandfather was born in 1911 and grew up in Santa Fe, like me. But unlike me, he didn't have the opportunities to pursue his passions. He did work in the mines, and he worked as a bootlegger, and eventually he became a baker. But at some point in time, he was able to have his hobby and pursue the passion of theater and music. And he did this through producing, directing, and starring in our Christmas pageant play called Los Pastores, which is the shepherds, the story from the perspective of the shepherds. And my grandfather in this play played the role of the devil, and he took this role very seriously. And he would dress in this satin outfit. It was red and it had little jingly things, and he wore this really scary devil mask, and he'd come out, "Cielos es cierto del mundo," I don't really know what the words were, but it was really scary, and it was in Spanish. And that's what I remember. And I knew, seeing this play every year, that the devil would be sent back to hell, and that the little baby Jesus would let us be saved. But it sort of left this seed growing that the devil was all around us. And my grandmother, Oralia, she also helped to encourage this when she told me the story of her great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, who, when I called her a couple weeks ago to have her retell me this story, she told me she thought his name was Jose Abeta, so we're gonna go with that. And my grandma's in her 80s. And apparently, Jose was a very, very religious man. He would pray the rosary every day. But at some point, something happened, and he stopped praying the rosary. And instead, he went into his woodshed and said, "Si no puedo hacerlo con esto, lo hago con esto." If I can't do it with this, I'll do it with that. If I can't do it with that, I'll do it with this. And the third night of doing this, spending all night long talking to someone, he went in to his house and he killed his wife and he killed his son and left another son there. His daughter, who was away at school, which, by the way, I thought was really progressive of my family for like the 1800s to have a daughter away at school, came back to deal with the mourning and everything that she had to deal with, and said that her father came to her in a dream and told her that she could save him from going to hell. That all she had to do was to pray 3 rosaries, those 3 rosaries that he didn't pray, and that he wouldn't go to hell. She did that, and apparently where their house stood now is the church in this tiny little village outside of Santa Fe called Cañada de los Álamos. And My grandmother said that when it rains, you can see the blood on the walls from when he committed those atrocities, and that sometimes you can see shadows moving of the dead. So these stories really reinforced for me this idea of the devil. The last thing that was beyond my family was that when I was in elementary school, there was some college students from Texas who were found in Matamoros, and they had been murdered, kidnapped and murdered in these ritual devil-worshipping atrocities and eaten. It was really traumatic for a child, as you can imagine. But I got older, and I left my bubble, my family, and I lived in Washington and New York and France, and I went to school and I met all kinds of people, and I learned that yes, there's real evil in the world. There is genocide, there is murder, there's slavery going on here, right now, among us today. But I also realized that I actually don't believe in the devil, and I don't believe in hell, and I actually don't think I believe in God. But I believe in humanity, I believe in goodness of people, and even though my grandparents tried, and my grandmother still tries, to get me to go to Mass and have this religion, that may not have passed through to me, but the appreciation of our culture, of tradition, and of my friends and my family, and all the goodness around us did stick with me. And that's definitely thanks to my family and my grandparents.